welcome to the Chemist Warehouse pre-show. We're at Lakeside Stadium this evening for the Melbourne Track Classic. Now, I'm joined here by Matt Lynch. Now, Lynchy, when we say the Melbourne Track Classic, there's been so many amazing athletes competing at this Track Classic through the years, hasn't there?
Oh, it's been fantastic. The history here, it's written through the years. Obviously, it's changed stadiums a few times, back at Olympic Park, here at Albert Park, but like the sprints just hold something for me. Frankie Fredericks, the meet record in the 200, we're going to see it later on. 1992, set in 1999, unbelievable. Asafa Powell, 10:04 when he was leading into the Com Games. David Rudisha, 1:43.15.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And they're global superstars in the sport of track and field who've come out here to compete at the Melbourne Track Classic in years gone by. Now, I really love some of our locals. Kathy Freeman broke 50 seconds for the first time in the 1996 edition, 49.85. And you know how special that run is. No other Australian female has broken 50 seconds still for the 400 metres. And Bronwyn Thompson in the long jump, she hit that 7 metre mark, which is just huge. And all those athletes that we've mentioned are just fabulous, fabulous athletes. And there's more athletes competing tonight that want to etch their names into the Melbourne Track Classic history books. But it's been a big week of athletics. And it started last Saturday evening with the Sydney Track Classic.
So it did kick off the hammer throw. It was in the pre-show. Ned Weatherly, we got to chat to him afterwards through a personal best. If you're anywhere near the track, it doesn't even have to be inside the track. You're outside, you'll hear him when he throws big. We saw the women's pole vault, Courtney Smaller-Combe taking the win there as well. It was a fantastic night. Yeah,
the women's pole vault, actually the South Australians clean swept that. And Matty Denny, well, he's taken his 2022 season off pretty great. He started it with a meet record there in Sydney, and he looked pretty happy with that one, didn't he?
Exactly. And Aya Ore, again, in the earlier the program, in the nice hot sun on the back straight, took the win. Ella Connolly, this is only just half an hour after she won the 100. She set a personal best in the 400 metres, 52.21. Just an outstanding talent.
Oh, Ella Connolly has really stepped up this season. She's just brilliant last weekend, and we're going to see her competing tonight as well. And this men's 100 metres, well, it was the New Zealander.
It was.
Eddie took the win, but the Australian athletes are having such a fabulous season. They started in Adelaide really fast and they carried it on there, and we're going to see them run some relays later this evening, but this was pretty special by the youngster.
Yeah, Jude Thomas stealing the show. With silver last year. He's only 20 now, 7:47 to take the Australian title for the 3,000 metres. Unbelievable talent he is.
There's a lot to love about the domestic athletes competing this season. They've really stepped up because there's a Commonwealth Games later this year and a World Championship.
It's a big year.
It's a really big year. Now, talking about competing on the global stage, we have a World Indoor Championships at the moment where we have quite a big team over there competing, don't we? And overnight, we've seen some of the athletes compete, and they're about to kick off as well. We can see Lyndon Hall in this photo with Katrina Bissett and their coach, Ned Brophy, and she was fabulous. She has made that final, and she is in that final later this evening.
And we'll see Kat go a little bit later as well. She's a great chance, but also a great chance. Curtis Marshall is in some of the best form of his life, and he loves jumping indoors, and I think he's going to be fantastic. He's really going to push the limits.
Yeah, and here's Ash Maloney on screen, and isn't he just having a wonderful, wonderful indoor campaign? You know, he's never competed indoors. It's his first chance to do so, but he's sitting in third position, just in front of fourth by 5 points, but he started the day off pretty well, didn't he, his day one?
Yeah, he's outstanding. It's his first time competing indoors, so obviously everything was a PB. He did a 6:70 in the 100 metres, a PB in the long jump, which is fantastic for him. Probably not his greatest shot put, but he stepped up again in the high jump. And he's got the 60 hurdles, he's got the pole vault, and he's got a 1K, and I think he's going to test the big guys out there like he did in Tokyo.
Amazing, isn't it? And he's still so young, so he's got such a big future, but he's already competing so well on the world stage. Now, there was also a marathon during the week, and Eloise Wellings was fabulous. The mother of two went over there, and it's a new event for her in her third ever marathon. She was able to get a personal best, and we spoke to her after she'd competed there.
I'm Eloise Wellings, and I am a marathon runner, and my coach is Nick Bedot. This week I ran my third ever marathon in Japan at the Nagoya Women's Marathon, and I ran a personal best of 2:25:10. Crossing the finish line of the Nagoya Marathon was, there's a whole lot of feeling. There was relief, and I was excited I actually didn't realize that I was on that time. I knew that I was on a PB, but I knew that I'd slowed slightly in the last 10K. I wasn't sure how much. My brain was not functioning enough to try and work it out. But yeah, crossing the line, there was just relief, a whole lot of satisfaction, a lot of exhaustion and pain, but just completely and utterly satisfied and ecstatic with what just happened. I spoke to the kids after the race too, and Indy, my 8-year-old daughter, she told me that Daddy was yelling at the television way too loud. She had to go and watch it in another room, in her on her own little stream on the iPhone, because Dad was yelling way too loud, which is so typical of Johnny when he's watching sport. So I loved that. And Sonny was just running around like a crazy 2-year-old, did not know what was happening. Every now and then he'd yell out, "Go mummy." But he also did that, during the Winter Olympics when the snowboarding was on. So he doesn't know what's happening. My goals now are to be selected, hopefully, for my 5th Commonwealth Games in Birmingham in July this year. And that would be really special to go to 5 Commonwealth Games, 20 years of competing for my country at the Com Games. And I just love everything about it. I love the team environment. I love that it is so much like at Olympics, and hoping to be really, really competitive over the marathon distance in Birmingham.
Honestly, listening to Eloise speak, you can't help but have a smile on your face. She's just such an incredible athlete. When she talks about going for 5 Commonwealth Games, when you think about her actual story where she missed so many Olympics early days through injury, her mental toughness is incredible. And the way that she ran that marathon, her 3rd ever marathon, 2:25, mother of 2, and talking about not only going to these Commonwealth Games, she wants to try and make the Melbourne ones as well, which would be 6, which would be so fabulous.
Well, we just got such good depth in the women's marathon as well. Like Sinead Diver was in that. She really pushed the pace. I think Sinead was having a crack at Benita Willis's Australian record.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, DNF, Izzy Bat-Doyle was out there pacing. She took it to 30K. Obviously, great job. It helped Eloise get a personal best. So it's fantastic teamwork as well. Yeah,
and what I love about that is Sinead wasn't scared to try. Like in a marathon, you've got to really push those early paces, and you don't know how it's going to work out unless you have that crack. So it was really impressive by Sinead to really toe the line and follow through on the plan. It didn't work this time, but I've heard that it was a great run by her in terms of she learnt from it, and who knows what she'll be doing later this year. And you can never write Sinead off, can you? No, you can't. Now, from long distance, let's go to sprints. There's been a relay camp this week here in Melbourne, and we've had the juniors down here and the seniors training in that 4x1 environment to try and see if they can get on to an Australian team and see how they go later this evening in a relay. But I spoke to a few of them and we watched their training early this week.
Today was good, preparation was really good. I think the coaches have really helped in the athletes coming mentally really prepared. So I think a lot of coaches really support relay, particularly 4x1. I think they came prepared and we got a really good session in. And I think there's a lot of good, the harmony within the team is outstanding. So a lot of the men and women train together and help each other. And that's why we run the 4x1 program together. Same skills, same method, same communication for what we do in relay.
Yeah, the changes went really good. It's obviously a bit of a new team environment around here, so it's always challenging to get a lot of new faces in, but everyone picked it up pretty well. Even the guys that came in new came in with very decent skills, which I think everyone was happy to see. We didn't have to start from square one, so I think going forward it's going to be brilliant. As some of the other guys come back in, it's always going to be a competitive team. So it's good skill-wise today, and we'll see how we go on Saturday.
Yeah, flat speed-wise, the team's looking really fast at the moment. So, we're really excited to get over there, and Worlds, Com Games, doesn't matter. With our camaraderie and with the ability we're putting together out here on the track, we only want medals, and we only want to rock up and run as many races as we can. So not just heats, we're going for finals, so it should be good.
So running with the senior girls has been really fun. It's been really exciting just looking at see how they do it, because it is different from the juniors, and I find I'm really learning a lot. I think our junior team does have a really good chance in Colombia because we have so many fast new juniors coming through, and we all get along, so I think we can get some really fast times.
Missing Tokyo was definitely a tough one, especially for all of us girls. We were so close in going, and COVID did kind of play a big role in that. But I think it's all really given us that drive for this season to know that we can be there, we can be on the world stage, and putting that time down in June and on the Gold Coast was something special for us. And we're almost at that Australian record, so even if we can crack that and head to the Com Games and World Champs, it'll be a ball.
Yeah, I was so grateful coming off Peptathlon in 2018. I got picked up, And I've been through the relay camps for all these years, and I've loved every girl that's coming in and out. And I think we have a really special group, and I really want to be a part of it because I think they have such a bright future. As you can tell from last season, just like coming together so quickly and producing that time, I think it's going to be really great for the future. And if we can stick with this group or even bring in more people, yeah, I think we'll have a lot of experience.
I think I've learned heaps on the camp, like how to change a button, and hopefully we can get the job done on Saturday.
I love Ella. She makes me laugh. But what I really liked about that, Lynchy, was the camaraderie between both of those teams is so strong. And I think that when you saw what happened last year with the women's team, where they just missed that Olympic team, and they would have been pretty good. I reckon they would have pushed close to that final. And you've heard Bree Masters there talking about that Australian record. They really want it. They just missed it. 43.11 last year. It's got incredible depth, that team.
Oh, the depth in all of our sprints is fantastic. You wouldn't have seen just then, but Jacinta Beecher in the B-Race 200, it was wind assisted 3.2, but she just ran 22.96.
Yeah.
That was her debut 200, so I can't wait to see the A-Race later on.
No, it's going to be an incredible night of athletics, but you're right, Jacinta Beecher is another one who wants to step out and be on that 4x100 team. There is so much depth. There is so much to love about both those teams, the men as well.
Yep.
You know, Rowan Browning has picked up a little bit of a niggle, so he's not competing in the rest of the domestic season, but, you know, that team makes it to the Commonwealth Games. You throw him in, they were fourth in 2018. They could go even better as well.
I think so. I think I can get a medal.
Yeah, I agree. Well, stick around. We have a special guest after the break, so don't go anywhere.
We know it's important to stay hydrated and that 8 glasses of water per day is recommended. Though for many of us, that's easier said than done. That's why more Australians are making Hydrolite part of their daily rehydration routine. Hydrolite is scientifically formulated to rapidly rehydrate faster than water alone, with products suitable for every member of the family, so you can embrace life's everyday moments. You'll find the Hydrolite range for a great price every day at Chemist Warehouse.
By a special guest. We have the Queen's Baton Relay coming through later this evening in the middle of the program, which is something to look forward to. It's going, it's 294-day journey, visiting 72 nations and territories in the Commonwealths, and it actually started off here in Australia with Sally Pearson, the Olympic gold medalist in the hurdles. And we have someone with us, a special guest, who is joining that Queen's Baton Relay later this evening. Now, you're working in Athletics Australia. Cara Honeychurch, you were a star of that 1998 Commonwealth Games where you won 3 gold medals in the 10-pin bowling.
It's hard to believe it's 24 years ago, isn't it, Tamsin? We were teammates, weren't we? So, yeah, it's time flies. It doesn't seem that long ago, but, yeah, it seems a little bit different now going from 10-pin bowling to athletics, but, you know, loving my experience here and obviously love the opportunity to be a part of those games in 1998.
Well, speak to us about the importance of the Commonwealth Games. You know, the Commonwealth Games, we're going to have it in Melbourne soon in 2026, but as an athlete, you have such fond memories, I can imagine, from those games.
Yeah, particularly because 10-pin bowling was only in the Commonwealth Games once, and obviously in the youth Commonwealth Games as well. The opportunity for a sport like 10-pin bowling to be in a multi-sport games, was fantastic, because that's not something that we've had the opportunity to be a part of. Just to be part of that village environment, meet so many people from different sports and people you'd looked up to for so many years, and a bit of a unique experience for me because 10-pin bowling was it was quite unexpected the amount of attention that 10-pin bowling would get at those games. So it was one of those things that you look back on many years later and just relish the opportunity that I had to be part of something like that.
So obviously now you do work for Athletics Australia, the General Manager of Corporate Services. What's that day-to-day life for you now, switching from working in 10-pin bowling now working in track and field?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of things that are very different. 10-pin bowling and athletics are very different. But look, I think the great thing about being an athlete is the skills that it gives you to transition when you do retire. Having left the sport in the early 2000s, I then worked as a CEO at Tempe Bowling Australia for 10 years and then moved across to corporate services at athletics. So obviously just having a really good understanding of sport is really important, and just learning the nuances of athletics. It's quite a complex sport.
It is.
But I'm loving it, and it's just been a wonderful, I think, about 15 months now, and it's great to be here tonight, and really excited to be part of the Queen's Baton Relay.
So I'm going to throw one on you. So if you had have decided to be a track and field athlete rather than a 10-pin bowler, which event do you think you would have chosen to try and excel at?
Well, I've got to tell you, as a youngster, I tried every single sport. So I have basically done almost every track and field event, probably except for pole vault. And I actually wasn't too bad at long jump.
Okay.
So I did actually make it to the regional championships in long jump, but then, I don't know, I went bowling one day. I was very determined that I was going to be a world champion in something, but I wasn't quite sure what. Went bowling one day and I went, this is the sport for me. So I hung up the running shoes and focused on 10-pin bowling.
Well, to be honest, it's probably the closest, if you look down the runway and you look down the bowling alley, there's probably the closest two events you could find, long jump and 10-pin bowling.
Yeah, well, I tried a bit of long distance running, tried a bit of sprinting, that wasn't for me. Tried a bit of high jump. Long jump was the one that resonated the most for me. But it's loving my time here at athletics, and it's just fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, let's talk about the Queen Baton Relay. We've got some athletic stars that are carrying that baton around the track a little bit later. What do you feel the importance is of being able to bring that Queen Baton's Relay to Melbourne and showcase it to the public?
Yeah, I think the Commonwealth Games has just got such a long history, an esteemed history, and just to remind people of the importance, the connection that it creates between different countries, and obviously the world's going through a pretty tough time at the moment. The importance of sport and the importance of events like this to bring the world together is cannot be underestimated.
Now, in the baton, Lynchy, the Queen, it started on October 7th, 2021, the relay, and the Queen actually puts a message. She writes a message and she puts it into the baton.
Okay.
And then it travels around the countries, the 72 nations and territories, and then it arrives in Birmingham later this year, where then hopefully the Queen will read out what the message is that she put in there. Did you?
No. Do we know what's written, what she wrote down at all, or is it part of the opening ceremony?
No, but I'm thinking that everyone now is going to be watching really carefully to see what she
Does it
reads
rattle
out.
around inside there? If you shake it tonight, will we find out what it is?
Well, maybe, Kara, you can shake it around and see if you can have a quick look at that message for us. But opening ceremonies are pretty special for games as well. Did you go to that opening ceremony in Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah, I did. It's I can remember it like it was yesterday, because it's the first opportunity I've had to walk into a stadium and have that many people just cheering. It's something that will live with me for the rest of my life, and I just feel so incredibly grateful that I was around and had the opportunity to be in the Commonwealth Games. And I certainly hope that maybe one day 10-pin bowling will take its place again in the Commonwealth Games. But just feel incredibly grateful to have been a part of just that amazing event. It's definitely one of the highlights of my life, most definitely.
Well, one last question before we let you go, and that men's steeplechase is about to start. We've got an Olympian in there as well, and some great athletes who will be chasing those qualifiers for the Commonwealth Games later this year. Athletics, you're now an athletics fan, you're entrenched in the athletics world and the fraternity. Who do you enjoy watching when you come to athletics meets?
Yeah, I love watching it all. I think it's not till you go to another sport, you get down at level and you realise how high the hurdles are and all of those sorts of things, how fast everybody runs. It's quite extraordinary. We are watching people who are outstanding at what they do, always make things look easy, but it's not till you really get down and immerse yourself in it that you really appreciate how talented and skillful these amazing athletes are. I have to say though, there's nothing like watching pole vault. It's just I'm sure a lot of people say that from outside of athletics, but just the skill and the dexterity and the strength and there's so many elements that go with that are really amazing to watch. The sprinting is great. I love it. I've got to admit, I love it all. I think it's amazing.
Oh, that was such a great answer. And you know what? If pole vault is one of your favourite events to watch, stay tuned, because in the Queen's Baton Relay, there's a couple of pole vaulters going around with it, and I've heard maybe even an Olympic gold medalist. But thank you so much, Kara Honeychurch, for joining us, and we are so incredibly lucky to have you in the sport of track and field now. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Tams. It was great to be here. Thank you.
All right, let's get down to this steeplechase, Lynchy, and have a look. Well, it looks like it's Max Stevens out there in the front, taking the lead over that water jump, closely followed by his training partner, Matty Clark.
Yeah, Matt Clark, he had a fantastic 2021, he was chasing that qualifier. He got so close to it. So many different cracks at it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do now. He's working really well behind our boy Max Stevens there. And it's a Japanese as well, Kosei Yamaguchi, just sitting off the back there as well. But the conditions, you might have heard before, we had one of our B race, 200 metres. It was a plus 3.2 down the home straight, which is rare for Albert Park Lakeside to see such good sprinting conditions. So it does look like it's died down. The windsock's not doing too much out there at the moment, but it is a group of three, Stevens, then it is Clark, and the Japanese athlete Yamaguchi.
Well, I mean, how good is steeplechase going in Australia at the moment? We have so much incredible depth. We had 3 athletes represented in both the men's and the women's steeplechase at Tokyo Olympics, and it's good to see Max Stevens back out here competing, because, you know, he had a fabulous start to 2020 and then was unfortunately injured at the Sydney Track Classic last year. And, you know, he started off this season domestically so well. He actually went to the base Sheffield in Adelaide and took 2 gold medals in the pro scene. But, you know, he's really desperate to get out here and show that he's not the man to be forgotten, and he wants to be on that team as well. But we're missing Ed Trippus, and Ben Buckingham's just got a little bit of a niggle, I've heard. So hopefully we'll see them all back by Nationals, because it makes for a great race. And we're missing, of course, James Niparis, who was the Australian champion last year, who everybody loved watching race at National Championships because he left his heart and soul up every time he ran.
He puts everything into a Niparis, but a little move by Matt Clark there just to get out the front with 5 laps to go. We saw Buckingham in Adelaide actually take the win, and he looked really, really good. And you know, it's a shame that we won't see him back out here again, but it definitely it's a race of 2, just 2 groups here at the moment, Clark, Stevens and Yamaguchi, and then a long way back to our chase pack. So hopefully that means our front group's on a hot pace here at Albert Park for this steeplechase.
Well, and this is the hard part of the race for them at the moment. It is very, very hot, and we saw those excruciating conditions in Tokyo that really took its toll on the steeplechasers. But it is hot, but it's also a really big headwind down that back straight. So I think if you can get some cover down the back straight, that's where you want to tuck in. The 2 team tempo athletes are going to work together as well as they can, because you know, they're training partners and they're so supportive of each other. You know, when Matty Clark made that Olympics in the way that he did, in the fashion that he did, Max Stevens was one of the first people to congratulate him and be so happy for him. So they train together, and they look like they're going to help each other here this evening.
Yeah, exactly. And 8:22, that's the target time for Clark, both for Oregon World Champs and for Birmingham in the Commonwealth Games. Yamaguchi's got a personal best under that, but he'll want to get another qualifier to secure his spot to Oregon, which is basically the home of, you know, it'd be fantastic to get out there to Oregon. You might also see the women's javelin doing their warm-ups as well as those athletes make their way around, and it's the first time to see Kelsey Lee Barber out in competition.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey Lee Barber is, you know, the world champion, the defending champion, so she gets an invite to those Oregon World Champs. She doesn't even have to qualify. Pass. It's a free pass, you're right. But, you know, what an incredible event of depth. We had 3 women in those Olympic Games that were in that final, and we're going to see Kath Mitchell a bit later. She's carrying that Queen's Baton relay. Yeah. And Mackenzie Little is going to be competing. So, you know, she was fabulous in Tokyo, you know, personal best galore. And she's just an incredible human, Mackenzie. You know, she's studying for her medical degree, and I don't know how she finds time to throw the javelin, but she does it very, very well.
Yeah, Stanford athlete, won a couple of NCAA titles. Yep. As they come back around the home straight in front of us again, Stevens now goes into the lead, looking pretty comfortable, all 3 of them at the moment, and every stride they're really extending that lead back to Joe Burgess and Aidan Hobbs in that chase pack. So 3 laps around, a little bit more than 400 metres, because it is an outside water jump here at Albert Park. So a little bit over 1,200 left to go for these athletes.
So even though it is really hot, you can see these athletes, you know, they don't get a lot of chances to do the steeplechase. You know, it's not like the sprinters who can do it week in, week out. So when they target a race, they know that they've really got to have a crack at it no matter what the conditions are. Now, Max Stevens is so tough. Having spent last year on the sidelines, he's hungry for this, you know, so he's not going to worry about the fact that, you know, it's a bit windy down that back straight. As you see him go into that steeple, he's got quite a good technique over it. Matty Clark came into the steeple a little bit later. He was a middle distance runner who stepped into the steeplechase. He's seen that you know, it's a smart thing to do. There's so much depth in men's middle distance running, so sometimes you have to look outside that square and see where's your best event going to be in terms of the global stage. And so sometimes when Matty's going over those steeples, he does rotate a little bit, which means when he lands, he's he's not as effective off the steeple, but he will be working very hard with that. And, you know, you can see him stuttering as they're going into that steeple. As they get tired, sometimes they stutter a lot more because it's probably one of the toughest events on the athletics track to get right.
Yeah, I remember talking to Stu McSwain. He made his debut in the world stage in this steeplechase, and he does say it's a bit of akin to cross country where you're never in your own rhythm. It's constantly changing. So, you know, in cross country, you're never on flat ground all the time, and you always got to keep yourself at stop, start, re-accelerate, and always off balance. And we saw Clark, since he's made this move to steeple, it's massively improved his flat track speed as well. He went sub 750 finished at the top end of the field at the Australian 3K champs last week, and that little burst of speed down the back straight. They got 1.5 laps to go just about, as Yamaguchi just gets up around Stevens, who might just be dropping off the pace a little bit. And Yamaguchi's right on the tail of Clark as they come around for their second last water jump here in the 3,000 metre steeplechase. 8:22 is the qualifying mark for Oregon, and Yamaguchi's gone out wide. It's one of those tricky ones where you want to be able to sight that steeple. You don't want to be just jumping into it blind, especially if you are going to push off. But you could probably throw a blanket over those three at the moment. Stevens is not letting them loose.
No, and if we look at the steeplechase here where they go over, like, you can see the different techniques. Now, Kosei Yamaguchi put his foot on the steeple there, but when he clears it like a 400 hurdler, you know, and the Japanese athletes are such good technicians over the hurdle. I wouldn't be surprised if he's done a lot of hurdle technique work, because he's quite wonderful in terms of the way that, see there, how he just has that beautiful hurdle technique when he doesn't put his foot onto the steeple. So he's a wonderful technician over those hurdles, and it looks like Max has put in a little bit of a spurt.
Yeah, wow. 300 metres left to go, and it's Stevens, but Yamaguchi comes out wide again. He's not going to let him take the front, but Yamaguchi powers over the outside. Clark sitting in third. Looks like he might be labouring just a bit, but just over 250 metres left to go for the Japanese athlete. He's a sub 8:20 fella. He's got 2 more steeples to go. He's got the water jump and the steeple in the home straight. Stevens probably about 10 metres now behind, but Yamaguchi turning it on. He's going to come around into the water jump for the last time. A big push off there, gets off clear through the shadows, around the cones, and he's looking super, super strong. Stevens holding on the clock just a tick over 8:12 now. So it could be pretty quick for these fellas. It's going to be faster than Adelaide. Some long strides into it, gets over, and the knife hands come out for Yamaguchi. He's powering towards the finish line. It's going to be a sub 8:30. This could be close for Max Stevens' personal best as well. It's going to be one of his better runs, 8:27.73. And I reckon Stevens is just going to be a tick over 8:30 as Clark now comes into the home straight over the last steeple. Looks like a little bit fatigued there. Probably the legs not coming back after such an awesome run for Clark in Sydney last week. But that'll be your top 3. Kosei Yamaguchi, and then Max Stevens and Matt Clark in that 3,000 metre steeplechase.
Wow, well, if that's a sign of things to come tonight, we're in for a really exciting night, because that was just fabulous. You know, Max Stevens, he looks like he really wants that national title. You know, this is their last chance, the athletes, to show that they're in shape for those nationals. And those nationals are, of course, doubling as our selection trials for the World Championships and the Commonwealth Games. But poor Matty Clark, he really had the bear jump on his back there, didn't he? Which is unfortunate. But we've got a lot to look forward to this evening. I know you're looking forward to a few events. You just mentioned that our world champion, Kelsey Lee Barber's out there in the javelin. We're going to see her soon. But what other events do we have to look forward to this evening?
Well, there's a new one on the scene, Sam Dale in the long jump. So she was a 630 metre jumper as a junior, fantastic. Comes up to the Queensland champs, goes 664, 670 foul. We only had 3 attempts because we had to compress the program because of the floods in Brisbane. So I can't wait to see what she's going to do with 6 jumps out there. You mentioned earlier the meet record is 7 metres. It's also the Australian record. 682 is the qualifier. I can't wait to see what she pops out. The conditions are fantastic.
Well, Brooke Stratton has that record now, remember?
Sorry, does. Meet record, let's say meet record.
Meet record, yeah, no, I know what you meant. But Brooke's watching, which I know she will be back home because she's just picked up a little bit of an injury. She's had that operation. But I saw her training in the week and she looks like she's starting to get back there. So fingers crossed we can have her back out on the track soon. Now, well, thank you so much for joining us for the Chemist Warehouse pre-show. We are super excited to see the main program about to begin. Lynchy, I'll let you go to the comms box, but thanks for joining us. Stay with us because that main event of the Melbourne Track Classic is coming up shortly.